this is a story that I've probably only shared with those closest to me. I shared this story with only my parents, my brothers, a couple cousins, and a few close friends. And basically, it was just a time where living with roommates went all wrong. And it's been 5 years since we had moved in together. We had moved into this apartment, not this apartment that I live in, but this was in 2016, January 2016. And it was with my best friend and his girlfriend. And I think now, since it's been so long, it's okay to share this story because I learned from it. Maybe you guys could maybe learn a thing from it as well, but I'm gonna jump to the end. But the whole living arrangement lasted less than 3 months. I bounced. I was the first one to permanently bounce just because it turned into a clusterfuck, if you will, and we were not friends after that. And up until about a year ago, I had not heard from either of the two. And I don't want to give out their actual names, but we'll go with Noel and Carol. So Noel and Carol were boyfriend and girlfriend. Noel and I were very good friends, and we had known each other maybe for about only a year before we decided, like, yo, we should team up and move out. I think we were at the gym one day when this idea came about, and so I know Noel from, he was my boss at one point. We're about the same age, but about 6 years ago I worked somewhere and he was my boss, and we became really good friends even after no longer working there. And he became really good friends and like really cool with my family and even my other friends. Just he was like always present at different like family functions and stuff like that. And so the three of us went apartment hunting, and this was in 2015 when we started apartment hunting. Moved in January of 2016. And so initially very excited. You know, I was in my undergrad program at CSUSB, and it was cool to just get out and experience that freedom. Moved out, and right from the first day, like, I just did not like the apartment itself. The walls in that apartment were so thin, and it was an older apartment, maybe built in like, it was still a nice apartment, but it was old, maybe built in like the early 80s. And like I live in an apartment now, but my apartment is very house-like. Walls are super thick, ventilation is great. But that apartment, my room was, I shared a wall with someone who was super loud in the room next to me, and I think it was someone that was born with like a birth defect, because I've always heard like a gurgling noise or like a growling noise and then crying, and felt super bad for whoever it was. I don't know if it was an adult or a child, never even lived there long enough to meet the people, but so instantly it was like that was an issue. Second, it was so cold that the heater in there it didn't work very great, and I don't know why. Like we were paying like $1,600 a month. It was a townhouse, a 2-bed, 2-bath townhouse with a 2-car attached garage, and I think like our payment monthly was about $1,600, which nowadays seems like a good deal, because that same apartment today is about $2,100 a month, which is crazy. And so there were 2 master bedrooms. Noelle and Carol had the master bedroom upstairs. I had the master bedroom downstairs. And so it was like a pretty big, like a 15 by 12 size bedroom with a restroom and a pretty large size closet. And so between, being freezing as fuck, not getting much sleep because my neighbors are like, they have their life going on and they're just loud and produce a lot of noise. And then one day I came home and I parked my car in the garage, and one of the 2 parked their car in the middle of the garage instead of on one side or the other, so like 2 cars can fit in there, because like that was included in my part of the payment every single month, was parking in the garage. And so they were gone, so they parked one of their cars in the center and then hopped in his car, which was parked out on the street, and they were out like a couple cities over, maybe like 30 minutes away. And I was pretty like so bothered by that. When I look back in hindsight though, I'm like, that is the most like minuscule, pettiest shit ever, to be like so bothered by somebody parking in your parking space. That was maybe about a month in, and there were some great times too. So at the time I was I was really good friends also with Noelle's brother. We'll call him Jackson. And I'm still friends with Jackson and still talk to him like maybe on a monthly basis or something like that. And so anytime he came down, it was always just like a lot of fun, and we would drink a lot of times, play Super Smash Brothers and ride skateboards and do a lot of stuff that I normally wouldn't do all the time. But like for instance, these friends were so much fun during that time. Like literally I went on my first like real camping trip with them without like an RV or a trailer. We went with just legit tents, and forgot lanterns or light, and we were setting up our entire campground in the dark, which is crazy. But was the night that I threw up in my tent, which was kind of funny, but it wasn't funny at the moment. It's funny now looking back at it. But we also, like, I went to my first rave with them. Jackson went to his first strip club with me, and went fishing and just like a lot of fun stuff. And so they were very super fun friends, and it was a great group. And all of them, even to this day, know my family. And when I do talk to them, they're like, "Hope your family's doing well." Tell them I said hello. And but so yeah, not all the times were bad when we were in there, but looking back at it from my perspective, and now that it's been years, and like, okay, I'm jumping ahead. We'll get back to that point. So, like I said, a month has gone by. I'm starting to really not like the place. And then I think just living with people that you're not used to, like the most minuscule, like I said, pettiest shit will start to bug you. And I would say I'm a clean person. Like, I'm not like way above average, but definitely above average when it comes to cleanliness. And just because it's really difficult for me to accomplish work in a messy space or environment, so that's really important to me. And I don't like unnecessary shit like left on counters. So there would always be like a couple cups left on the counter, or a couple dishes in the sink, like not a ton of dishes, but a couple. And at the time, like, that really bugged me. And looking back at it, it's like, that is fucking petty. Like, why care about that? I remember at one point, one of them, their family member, had given them a lamp. It was like a really old lamp, and legit looked like a genie lamp or something like that. It also looked pretty dangerous though, and it looked like it was about to like blow a fuse. I just didn't like it. They put it in the living room, and I put it in the garage because I was like, this shit is ugly. Like, we're not gonna turn this on, leave this in here. So I was part of the problem. Them two, they had a lot of problems. At one point, I was out with Jackson. This was maybe like 2 months in. And Jackson, it was like me, him, and like a whole group of friends, and we went and watched, I think it was like Batman, and this was in 2016. After that, we went to this park, which is in the city I live in, Redlands, which is supposed to be haunted. It's called Prospect Park. Didn't find any ghosts, but found a couple coyotes, and a couple people tripped because we were in the dark. And I get a call from Noelle saying that Carol and him got into it, and she was upset and is leaving. He's like, what should I do? And I'm like, let her leave. Like, what out? Like, she's an adult. You let her leave. If she wants to leave, like, she's gotta leave. And that was that. And I was like, well, I'll see you when I get back to the apartment. You should be there in a little bit. We were actually gonna go over there, which I'm so glad we didn't, because like, they were having their issues. But with them, it almost seemed like every other week there was some kind of problem or issue or something. And months before that, and they were having other issues, and I remember him telling me that something along the lines of he didn't want to be with her anymore because he felt like she wasn't motivated to achieve more in life, and didn't want someone in the long run who he felt was mooching off of him. And so I don't know what happened between them two, but at one point he asked me if I could tell her that in my own words, which I'm like, since it was like my best friend, I helped him out. I was also friends with her though too at that time, just because we all hung out so much. And so I'm like, okay, this is weird, but I guess I'll relay the message. And I talked to her about it, and I'm like, I don't really know what that. I said basically what he said, and then it was just like, I don't know what that means. So, but yeah, that's how he feels. That's what he told me. Why I'm involved, I don't know. Looking back in hindsight again, the person I am today and who I am today, it would be like, I'm not getting involved in that. That's that on that. I'm not doing that, unfortunately. So that would be my response today to anybody who tried to put me in that position. But so there were many moments where I was caught in the middle of their relationship, and I think right there that was their mistake, and also my mistake. Their mistake for putting me in that position, my mistake for allowing them to put me in that position, because I think it ruined a lot of the comfortability for all of us. And so I think we're way too involved with each other's lives, like all of us. She was way too involved in his life, he was way too involved in hers, and way too involved in mine, and I was way too involved in his, and in the middle of both of them. So it just was a weird dynamic from the start. And like I said, now I'm at a good place with everyone. It took like 4 years to get there. But so back to that one night when I was at the haunted park, getting drunk at the haunted park. Mind you, these were my college years. And so get back there, arrive to the apartment, and when I tell you, homegirl took everything that she brought to that apartment. She took everything that she brought. Literally, she took every single spoon, fork, knife that she brought to the apartment. I just remember the following morning, I did not have anything to stir my coffee with. Again, very minuscule, but it was like funny and a huge inconvenience at the time because we had 0 utensils. And so she took all their sheets. He didn't have a sheet or like any comforter. She took the TV that we had in the living room because she contributed that. So literally, like, she took everything. I'm not sure to this day if she took their toilet paper. It could have happened, but so I remember that night kind of being like, well, we will figure it out, because at this time, like, the two of us really couldn't afford the rent on our own. Nowadays, I'd be like, I got us on the entire rent, we good. But at that point in college, you know, when you're working like part-time and somewhat living off of student loans, cannot afford an extra $500 or $600 per month. And so I was coming from the position of, we'll figure it out. I had plans to study that night, which is already bad on my end to study the night before midterms. Like, I was out watching Batman and at a haunted park when I should have been studying. But I had planned to come home at like midnight or 1 a.m. and study up until like 3 or 4 in the morning. Bad idea. Better planning should have been done on my part. But with the drama that was on our hands, I was there like somewhat consoling my friend, and for like at least an hour, and then so just distracted because I'm like, okay, well, I was like trying to come up with plans on what we can do to like resolve the issue. What options do we have? Do I know anyone who can move in, or like what? And at that point, I started getting really angry and like really pissed off, just because I felt like I was continuously put in the middle of their relationship, and like I shouldn't have allowed that, but even more so from them, they shouldn't have, and it was mostly him that did that. But so I started getting pissed off, and I think maybe 2 days pass, and it's like midterm week, pretty busy week if you're in college, and I'm at school in one of my classes, and I get a text message from Noel saying that him and Carol want to sit down and speak with me. So everything was always set up as like let's have a meeting. Like, everything does not need to be a meeting. Can you just relay the message through text, through email, tell me over the phone? Like, why do we gotta sit down and meet and discuss everything, lay it all out? So that day, it was like my long school day because I used to work on campus, so I had like 3 classes, and then I worked on campus after my 3 classes, and then after I worked on campus, like a 4-hour shift or something small like that, I was also an assistant news editor for my university's newspaper, and that was a 4-hour shift too. So I had school from like 10 a.m. from like 9 a.m. to 3, and then so as I was saying, I had school from about 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Worked on campus from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. and then worked for the school's newspaper from 7 p.m. to almost 11 p.m. that night. I arrived back into the apartment, and both of them are sitting down on the couch, kind of serious tones, serious body language, serious facial expressions, and so that was what I had walked into. And sit down and basically make a long story short, in the middle of the conversation, the whole theme of it was that she was moving back in. But they kind of got into it because in front of her, as we're meeting, he tells me, Carol wanted me to tell you that I want her to move back in. So basically, whenever they had spoke, she told Noel that she wanted Noel to tell me that he wants her to move back in, so that's why she's moving back in. And that all came out in front of me, and man, I was like, man, this is so uncomfortable, but this is great. No, I did not want to be in that room. And so I think at one point he asked what I thought about the situation. I think at that point I basically was like, we're in this situation because of you. And then him and I got into it, and the conversation ended with me basically saying, well, I'll let you guys know by Monday what I'm gonna do, because I was just very unhappy in that situation. But after that, I went out with my friends, and which is so sad, because I think when looking back to, I really stopped as soon as we moved in, shortly after. Like, we didn't even live together that long. I stopped being a good friend and stopped like inviting them to stuff. I stopped including them in different stuff that I would have included them in previously. And so didn't realize that though until years later, and I look back, but which is messed up on my part. So I also forgot this major point. I remember the night that they had their big blowout where she left and literally raided all the stuff and took everything, as she should have, I guess. But he had told me, well, I have a gun, where should I hide my gun? Can I hide it in your room? I'm not against guns at all. I think, protection. But that made me feel very uncomfortable, and my response to that was, why do you think she's gonna shoot us? Like, then I was worried. So, fast forward, she's moving back in. That whole meeting ends with, oh, she's moving back in, but, oh, I'm gonna let you guys know what I'm gonna do come Monday. And at this time I was working in LA. It was like Easter weekend, and things had just gotten like very bad. And when I say that him and I had a blowout, it was a blowout. And so, again, to make a long story short, it was Easter Sunday. I went back to my parents' house instead of going home to the apartment. Stayed very late, and at the end, before I left, explained to them everything that had happened, everything that had been happening. Of course, I tell the story from like my own viewpoint to make me look like the good one, when I was also a part of the problem from, kind of outcasting them from my life as soon as we moved in, and hanging out with other friends and not inviting them or including them with stuff that I normally would. And also allowing them to put me in the middle of their relationship, and just stuff like that. So, yeah. And, being bothered by petty shit like a spoon left in the sink or being parked in my parking space. Like, that's all petty shit. So, I was a part of the problem, and I understand that. But, I told my parents about everything. I really played it up, and was just like, I'm always in the middle of their relationship. I don't like the apartment. They don't live the same way that I do. And then I told them about the gun situation, and was just like, I don't feel comfortable there. I don't feel safe around them anymore. Like, we're not on good terms. So, of course, they said, yes, I can move back in. The next day, they both went to work. I skipped out on school and met with the leasing agent, paid my way out of my lease with student loans, basically, which is crazy because that was a waste of like $2,500. Didn't get my security deposit back, and I was just so unhappy and wanted to dip out. I called U-Haul, rented a truck, called my dad. He left work about an hour early. I hit up my buddy Christian, and they both helped me move out, and I was literally moved out. Every trace of me was gone from that apartment by the time they got out of work. And I left I had contributed the table, like the dinner table and chairs and whatnot, and I left it just because I was like, I don't have any need, like, where am I gonna put this? In my parents' backyard? So I wasn't petty in that sense, but so yeah, by the time they got home from work, I was completely moved back into my parents' house, and I get a call from Noel and was just like, I think we talked for like a couple hours, or I don't, he was pretty upset and was like, I feel like I lost a friend, blah blah blah. And you know, like I said, we spoke for a couple hours and the conversation ended well, but that was actually, even to this day, the last time we've ever spoken to each other on the phone. And the last time I ever seen either of them was the night of the blowout, when she announced she was moving back in and I announced that I may be leaving. Which is very sad. So it's been about, in March it'll be about 5 years since I last like physically seen either of them. They're not together but anymore, but that was that story. And I think what I've realized is like, just living with people is difficult, and everyone comes from such different backgrounds and brings like different baggage to situations, and it's just tough because like that was my best friend, and after that, you know, even though that final phone call we had, we were like cool, we weren't like, really, we weren't friends. He reached out to me in January of 2020 and we kind of like texted back and forth, and then I reached out to him on his birthday last year, and so, you know, now we're cool, and I've been really cool with his brother ever since then, even through the drama. And so me and her actually just got back in contact maybe about a month ago, just started following each other on social media and have had some exchange back and forth, just talking, super light, but it's really cool to kind of finally be in a cool place with them again. And because that's important. Like, it was a great time in life, but I think we just weren't meant to live together. It just created a very weird dynamic, an uncomfortable dynamic, and we were all really young at that point. So there's that story.